Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm super excited to connect with you. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks. Things have been a little crazy on my end over here with lots of really great opportunities, and I hope that you guys are doing awesome and getting off to a great start on your Friday. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about what we're going to talk about today. And today it's really kind of more of a discussion, a conversation. So I would love you to join in, make some comments, add your input, because it is more of a mindset shift. It's exploring what would it look like to take a look at, have a new perspective on something that we might feel stuck in between an either or option. If you have a conversation with me at any point, coach with me, read anything that I have to say, you will often hear me ask, what is the third option? And it's because we've talked about this on lives previously, that in our human nature and because of challenges and difficulties in our experience of life, we tend to become very dualistic in our thinking. We see things very black and white, either or, all or nothing. It gives us a false sense of security and a false sense of control if we really, it's like you're either with us or against us. You either, I'm either going to succeed or fail. We feel like we know our options. And when we step into a whole new level of personal development, of being able to live in our life in a way that brings balance in the both and, that is when we are able to live in a deeper place of, a sense of calm and peace, as well as moving into action and achieving our goals. So it's from that place that we're going to talk about this idea that I see all the time. And obviously within myself, or I'd have nothing to say about it, is this idea that we have two options when it comes to pursuing our purpose in life. And we are stuck in the either or of that, and then inevitably are on this pendulum swinging from one side to the next. And it's this idea that I can either drive my way forward, push through the obstacles, dig my heels in, take a stand for my, living my life to the fullest, pushing, forcing, being courageous, right? That version of that interpretation of it. Or I can collapse into the burnout that creates and just finally give up because life is hard, or challenges abound, or things didn't go the way that I hoped or dreamed, and I'm pushing my way forward. So the inevitable is that I will burn out. And then we collapse into this burnout, right? We go on some huge sabbatical, or we embrace radical rest, all these things, which none of these things I'm talking about are bad or wrong in and of themselves. But it's when we create a cycle of the only way to move things forward in my life is to brace and push, and then bracing and pushing leads to collapse and burnout. I have to rest and recover, and then I get bored, or I feel disengaged or uninspired in my life, or I just feel I judge myself for not being productive or fulfilling what I'm called to do. So I gear back up, dig back in, and start pushing again. So I'm curious, chat in the comments if you resonate with this, if you have a friend, right, who you've noticed this cycle in, if this is something that you have been privy to, because it is so prevalent. It's so prevalent. And what's really interesting is Sorry, I'm getting comments up here so I can see them in real time. What's interesting is, the clients that I work with and the people that I run with, just in my life, my community and colleagues and friendships are people that want to make an impact, right? And I think that most, if not all of the people in this group are in that place. They're wanting to cross their edges. You guys are wanting to step over the edge of fear. You're wanting to really own your calling or your place of leadership or just your influence, just being, even if in this season you feel dedicated and called, that your influence and your place of impact is your home and your 3 kids, wanting to show up to that in the fullest way possible. And let me tell you, I coach a lot of moms of young kids, and that may be one of the more burnout in your place of influence and leadership jobs on the planet, right? Because the demands are ongoing and the stressors unrelenting, and it's harder in some ways to contain that pendulum swing, right? In the process of that. So I think what happens is we couple, and what I mean by that is we attach the idea that in order for me to be successful, however you define that, right? In order for me to be successful in life, I will burn out. So there's nothing I can do about that. So I'm just gonna keep pushing and driving my way forward. And then if and when I collapse, I'll deal with it. But I hope I don't. We'll see how far I can get this time. And then I'll go back into that spiral of it's never gonna happen. I don't get to have the influence and impact that I know that I want to, and I know that I am to. And then we cycle back and dive or dig back in. So more than anything today, I want to inspire you guys to first see that for what it is, right? To see that cycle, to see that pendulum and the times and seasons you've possibly been on it. And if you're currently in one of those lanes, to really self-identify. Where am I? Am I at that beginning stage where I feel really inspired, but I'm driving it forward and I'm pushing and I'm striving and I'm, bracing? And maybe I didn't notice that before, and now I see it for what it is. Or are you edging towards burnout? Are you edging towards, and you may not resonate with that word, that may not be exactly how you feel, but do you feel kind of a generalized sense of malaise? Do you feel like you wake up in the morning and it's going to take literally like a crane to come in your home and pull you out of bed because you feel like you weigh 1,000,000 pounds just because of the heaviness of the fatigue, right? What are you noticing in your body? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? Are you feeling chronic tension in your chest at times? Are you having ruminating thoughts? Are you laying in bed thinking about all the stuff that you forgot to do that day and trying to figure out when in the world you're going to do it tomorrow? Those are all signs and symptoms of stress. And stress in our nervous system on every level of our being, not just physiology, not just our physical being, but our mental, emotional, spiritual, and relational being, stress leads to whatever you want to call it, right? Stress leads to depletion. And I think we all can agree that in many seasons we are living from a place of feeling depleted. So it's my passion working with people to help find the third option, okay? So like I said, today more than anything, I just want to inspire you that there is a third option and to begin to explore what that looks like. And you hear me talk all the time about stress and how it really becomes a habit. We have habits of stress. Doubting ourselves is a stress, is a habit. And feeling fear can become a habit. And there are habits that we can develop to begin to regulate our stress and to help us move toward whatever we are defining as success. So I think number one is identifying where you are in that pendulum swing, if that resonates for you, and to begin to self-identify the patterns in your life of pushing, striving, bracing, and some of the thoughts and ideas that you have about it, right? Do you believe that there's no other way? Do you believe that this is just a season that you have to endure? Do you believe that that's life? Do you compare your suffering and dumb down how you're feeling about the challenge of it? Do you feel like there's no options? Do you want to believe that this is just the American way, whatever it may be, and really begin to identify some of the thoughts that are driving the behavior as well as the emotions, okay? A big one for a lot of people is the belief and then the feeling associated with it that, it comes easily for everyone else except for me, so I have to try harder. That's a huge one. And we have to really grapple with that. And we have to change that on the inside before that will change on the outside. So really taking a look at the things that are creating stress in your life and not limiting it to your external circumstance and environment. I think that's where we often will look, and then we try to fix it on that level as well. And I really believe that, as within, so without, we have to really, really, really do the internal work around our mindset and regulating our emotions. A lot of times we brace and push because it feels stressful, it feels hard, and we don't want to feel that. And so what that does is deplete our energy. So then the next thing is really working to increase our energy. And I've talked about this before and would love to talk with you each individually more specifically about what the things are that are draining your energies, because it's unique and individual to every one person. But what we often, again, focus on is changing our schedule, changing our sleep patterns, changing our, changing our external environment. And what I find more often than not is when we shift some internal realities and come out of believing that there's no other option and then creating a third option for ourselves, that then we suddenly have more energy. So looking at that and seeing where you can create some changes and shifts internally as well as externally. And then those external changes feel easier. They feel more accessible, and they feel like places that you can engage with. And then, as I pointed to before, getting really honest and really clear on the old patterns that drive this, these old patterns that drive you toward pushing and striving and bracing and creating new ones. And it's easy and straightforward to do, and, but not always easy to see what needs to be done. So it's really, first of all, being inspired to choose to get off the pendulum and really believing that you can. And I've seen in myself and in those that I coach with that actually is the biggest shift. That's the biggest change. And all the other pieces of it are smaller and deliberate, but very, smaller next steps in living that out. So I always invite you guys to book a call with me. They're free. It's always my joy to connect with you and really help you get clear on what those things are, those patterns. And specifically around this topic, there aren't as many pragmatic, clear, and concrete steps because everyone is different. So beyond, what I shared and getting curious about that in your own life, sometimes we just need an external perspective, someone who can see in a non-judgmental way what we are stuck in. So I just want to remind you that offer and invitation is always available to you if you have not already taken advantage of it. And I'm going to pause here and just see comments and questions. If anyone has anything they want to ask or share, put into the mix of the conversation. So Dee is talking about, oh, I'm sorry you have the flu. You guys, this flu. What in the world? Yes, there are physiological realities of being sick, and she's speaking to the winter time, and yes, absolutely. What I would say, though, is she's asking about collapse happening in the winter, and maybe we're just not in touch with nature so much in the winter. What I would say then to anyone who's noticing that, absolutely our season and our cycles, everything is cyclical in our bodies and obviously in the world that we live in, things cycle and we're going to feel the best and things are going to work the best when we are in rhythm with that. So what I would say to you, Dee, and anyone else who resonates with that question is to see if you can get curious about the distinction between the feeling of collapse and the feeling of hibernation. I think that a natural response to the shift of season in winter is more of a sensation of slowing down, more of a sensation of wanting to cozy up, more of a sensation of wanting to be still and rest in that place of slowing down. But it's not a sensation of exhaustion. It's not a sensation of depletion. It's not a sensation of waking up at 3 a.m. in like a start, because your adrenals are trying to clean your liver and you're like, whoa, and then you can't fall asleep and you have that wired but tired feeling. It's not that. So I would just pay attention and see if there's a distinction between what it feels like to slow down and hibernate a little bit in the winter and cozy up and drink hot drinks. And what does it feel like in your body when you're depleted, exhausted, and feel kind of wiry and jolty? That's what I would speak to that. Okay, yeah. So Dee's speaking to clarity around that, but then also she's tracking behaviors that may be more stress related. And so, I think that's the absolute most essential thing that we can do. If when we're stressed, we turn towards carbs and sugar, then we can let that be a tell, right? Just like in a high stakes game of poker. Knowing our opponent's tells gives us really helpful information, and we can do that with ourselves as well. So turning towards carbs and sugar might be a tell where you're like, okay, I'm stressed, or other behaviors, right? Oftentimes we avoid through not stopping. Okay? So we may feel exhausted or depleted in our bodies, but we just keep going, do one more thing, check in with work one more time. Oh, I have to clean that thing one more thing. Oh, we have to get the girls, rides ready in the morning, and then the bags and the thing and the blah, right? And we just keep going. That's another behavior that's really common. Any way that you're avoiding, I think that's always a place to start. Anywhere you're avoiding being in in the reality of your experience, to pay attention to that. And those are going to be behaviors that that are stress related. And they're often behaviors that keep us driving forward, right? Or in that collapse and shutdown. Yeah, somebody said, if only. I'm not exactly sure what that was in response to, but what I would say, and just circle back, the biggest thing that we can do is to pay attention to the places where we are deciding for ourselves that something's not possible. Okay? And I say this from the queen of having to do this on a daily basis. I spend every day paying attention, and not in a laborious way, but I am committed. I understand that I have thoughts that are based on really difficult experiences that I've had, that decide for me what I believe is possible now. And I'm just committed to no longer allow those old thoughts attached to old experiences to limit what's possible now for me. And I'm done being on this pendulum swing. I'm so over it. My body's not willing to be involved in that a scenario any longer, and neither is any other part of my life, right? And so I am speaking to you from someone who, this morning, I show up to myself and really allow myself to ask, where am I believing something that's blocking me from experiencing everything that I'm here to experience? And the information will come when you open yourself to really see it and receive it, and then do something about it. So I have a long health history that I've shared with you guys in different ways and different varieties. I haven't felt inspired to share all the details of my story, because it's not really what we're here to discuss. I'd be super happy to, and wish I could sit down with each of you for a coffee. But there's some ways that my body is responding and giving me information right now that there is stress in my environment that is too much right now. So, I could feel really discouraged and upset, or I could, with gratitude, really appreciate that I have information to serve me and to support me in really understanding what my next steps are. And so that's how I'm responding to it. And so I believe that these things pop up for me because I'm committed to this third option. I'm committed to the third way. I'm committed. I will not burn myself out, and I will fulfill my purpose, whatever that looks like, and I will achieve success how I define it, period. So I share that to say it is it's a winding path. It's something that we take a step forward and maybe 2 steps back, but to see everything as information that's provided to serve us in really discerning and choosing and being empowered to take that next step. So gonna glance over here. Thanks, Anita. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad it's resonating. Yeah. So you guys, just a reminder, again, I am here to support and serve you guys. So if you've been thinking, maybe I should book that call with Sarah, do it. Now's your chance. And now I think this conversation is a really essential one, because the thing is we don't know often what those patterns are, because they come from our subconscious, right? And I can help you see those and help you discern next steps for support around changing them, and changing them permanently, which is the really cool thing about it. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for connecting as always. And I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Have a beautiful day.